We're going to start with our very good friend Henry Kissinger, who was instrumental in creating the petrodollar. And what does he say? It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true. And hey, he was instrumental in taking us off of at least a quasi-gold-backed dollar into a pure debt-based dollar. The man knew what he was talking about. And he's still around, amazingly. But this is when it was formalized, was with President Reagan in the early 80s, who changed the laws and the rules to bring Rupert Murdoch over, and that's in advertising and in media, and he changed it so that he could help formalize perception management. And this was all happening as that new debt-based system was born and coming alive, because it's so much easier when the public just volunteers. And that's really what perception management is all about. Because if they can control how you perceive things, then they can, at least in theory, control how you move forward. And we've certainly seen this quite a bit lately. Whose benefit is this for? Do you think that these powers are putting your best interest first, or just the interests of the few over the many? Because that's what I see. Now, my good friend, not really a friend, Alan Greenspan, my mom always used to say to me, "But Lynn, don't you think Alan Greenspan is smarter than you? Don't you think he's smarter than you?" And I'd say to her, "Ma, I certainly hope so, because he has a whole lot more influence than I do. But if he actually believes the garbage that's coming out of his mouth, then the answer is no, he is not smarter than me." And before he became the Fed chair, well, he was a big proponent of money that was fiat money that was convertible into gold. He was a huge gold proponent. He lost that during the years he was Fed chair. Now he's back to it again. But here he is in 1993. If we are dealing with psychology, then the thermometers one uses to measure it have an effect. What would happen if the Treasury sold a little gold in this market? There's an interesting question here, because if the gold price broke in that context, the thermometer would not just be a measuring tool, it would basically affect the underlying psychology. And so all of these times when I'm showing you the spot gold market, what they don't say, if you're listening to the talking heads, do they say the spot gold market? No, they say gold. They say gold. But there's gold and then there's gold. This is physical only market. And these have been going up, up, up. The spot gold market is absolutely manipulated to keep you away from this. Because once you're in this, they can't see it. They're blind to it, and they can't control it. But what are they buying? They're buying gold. So I love that. And this is actually a Fed chair admitting to manipulation. Now, mind you, we don't get any of these documents until years after they've been said. But there, my friends, is absolute proof of them manipulating gold. And there's more, but that's not what this is about today. Okay, back in 2004, the Pentagon weighs the use of deception in a broad arena. What? Would the Pentagon deceive anybody? Such missions could take the deceptive techniques endorsed for use on the battlefield to confuse an adversary and adopt them for covert propaganda campaigns. Do you really think that they would not use this knowledge to manipulate you and me? Because think again. The military has faced these tough issues before. Nearly 3 years ago, Defense Secretary Donald H. Rumsfeld, under intense criticism, closed the Pentagon's Office of Strategic Influence. I love how they name these things. Strategic Influence, also known as perception management, a short-lived operation to provide news items, possibly including false ones. No. Would they lie to us? No. To foreign journalists in an effort to influence overseas opinion. Do you think they do it here? Because I do. Now, critics say some of the proposals of that discredited office are quietly being resurrected. They are? Yeah, here we are in 2023 inside the Pentagon's new Perception Management Office to counter disinformation. Oh my goodness, out in the open. On March 1st, 2022, the Pentagon established a new office with similar goals to the one once deemed too controversial to remain open. Very little has been made public about the effort. Shocker! And I hope you realize I'm not really shocked. What I'm trying to show you here is that this is happening. And when you ignore it, well, it doesn't mean that you're not influenced by it. That's the whole point, is that influence. But wait until this is the piece that makes it so flippin' blatant. Now, you guys know that I put the links to everything on the blog posts, so you definitely want to read not just this article, but I want you to read about the underlying suit that's going on. I don't know what's going to come of it yet, but it's mind-blowing when you read this. It's mind-blowing. But social media rebuffs shows Biden overstepped on COVID misinformation. Really? Is that a possibility? This is not, and I want to make this quite clear. This is really not about whether you believe all of this stuff from COVID or you don't, or you're vaxxed or unvaxxed. This is not about any of that. It is about how they dish out the misinformation so they can choose what goes out there. And you have to really do your due diligence. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Don't take mine. That's why I give you the links. You disagree with me, rock and roll hoochie coo. I can't say anything about that. But following and believing blindly does not serve you well. It's that simple. The existence of an emergency doesn't cancel the freedom of speech. When the government makes swift decisions out of a sense of urgency, it is more likely to err, not less. Thus, dissent is of even greater importance, and suppressing it is even more contrary to the public interest. And I'm telling you right now, and you know because I've said little bits about it, there were a lot of things that I have wanted to say that I did not say. Why? Because if I did, they'd pull me off the air. And I know a lot of people that were pulled off the air for speaking truth. We're going to get more into that in a minute. Moreover, whatever the justification in the past, the emergency is now over by the government's own admission, yet as described in Dougherty's ruling, and he's the judge in this proceeding, the administration's pressure on social media companies continues and is growing to encompass other issues. Democracy thrives on open debate, even if that means letting people say crazy things during a public health emergency or saying horrendous things about others. If you stifle free speech in one area, guess what? You're going to do it wherever it's convenient for you. The administration's pressure on social media companies continues, and it's growing to encompass other issues.